This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm not JP. I am Ben.
Yes, JP is going to be absent this episode, which is unfortunate because I think we have some fun stuff that we're going to talk about. There's a pretty hot topic. Topically hot. How about that?
Spicy.
That I think I would love to hear his voice on. So maybe we'll just get his opinion after this on the next episode. But with that being said, door_disc_golf, night_owl_pod, and then doordisc.com, where you can buy all your disc golf needs, apparels, wants. How about all of it?
Desires.
There you go. See? And then YouTube. We do have a thing on YouTube. So Casual Relief gets posted there, which is our other podcast, which we'll get into in a little bit here. Well, it's Ben's other podcast. And then we have these. And then I do have a series coming out that we are doing with Joe and Kevin, and then one with Joe. So we will get those things recorded. We'll get those put up, edited, and they'll be horribly edited, but they'll be good content. So here you go. Casual Relief, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, Casual Relief. We are back for coming out in 2 days on Wednesday. So the couple days after you are listening to this, we were on a brief hiatus because life got in the way. But myself and Matt, one of the other guys on the team and on that podcast this week, we're going to be talking about carts, bags, and other accessories, and just kind of some food for thought when you're looking at them, what pros and cons of the stuff that we have, what we like, what we would improve. So just, some stuff to kind of maybe think about it if you're looking for any of those items, just some things that we would have thought about. So, there's all these different things, all these gadgets and gizmos and fun things that you can get to, spice up your disc golf life. So just things to kind of think about when you're looking for these down the line. So good conversation. Excited for that one to come out for everybody to take a listen to.
Perfect. All right. With all that being said, how do you feel about handshake deals, Ben?
Well, in the disc golf world, we've known that they have been dumpster fires. But I think it just depends, on what, in the real life, I'm all for a handshake deal as far as a gentleman's agreement or a bet or something that's, just an agreement, hey, I'll mow your lawn if you, come do this project for me, we shake on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those types of things. But anytime, in my personal opinion, that money is being done, a contract should be signed. So for example, in my personal life here, we are installing a fence in my backyard coming up at the end of August for our dog to, run around. That was a large sum of money, and in no way, shape, or form would I ever do a handshake deal with that. So I have a contract in writing with this company. So that's my stance: money, contract, odds and ends, handshake's fine.
Exactly. And isn't it incredible how expensive fences are?
Oh man, my fence was over $7,000.
Yeah, it's just, and you're like, for what? Digging some holes and putting some posts in? Come on. But man, yeah, it's work and equipment and experience that you pay for. It's nuts how expensive they are.
Oh yeah, and mine was a little bit. I of course got multiple quotes because I'm not gonna, you never know when things could come back. But I ended up going with the kind of the more expensive one. But it's hard to beat a stick at 200 5-star reviews across all these platforms for this company. So I was like, They seem to be the ones to go with. So
yeah. With a lot of the projects we do with our businesses, we do, it can get overwhelming bringing quotes in. But we usually do at least 3, and we look at the 3 of them, and then we look at reviews and all that stuff. It's smart too. So yeah, so it's even handshake deals, because I know that you and I ran a couple tournaments together, and I know there was a point where we got to sit down and just figure this out. And I know in the beginning I was like, we need to make sure there's money that's going to be involved, and we need to have a good conversation and talk about exactly what's going to happen with that, because we don't need those ill feelings at the end. And I think ultimately towards the end, I think it all worked out just fine. But then that conversation about doing another event, we need to get this little more solid in writing, exactly what we're going to do with how everything goes, So that was a good handshake deal that worked out just fine between us. But it would have worked out even better if there was something that outlined how these things go, right? because we had talked back and forth. So when I talk about handshake, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think like the first tournament we did was a handshake deal, and we very much just kind of broke even on it. Like no one made any
Mm-hmm.
money, no one really lost any money, so it was
Yep.
good to have a handshake deal. And then we were like, for the second one, we do the same thing. It was another flex. We did two flexes, but then we did the
Mm-hmm.
big B tier, and we didn't. You don't know what you don't know, right? We were just like,
Right.
yeah, we can totally just kind of do this on our own, or
Mm-hmm.
do a handshake deal. And then we started looking at the P&L and the money coming in, and we're like, oh, there's a lot of money coming in and a
Yeah.
lot of money
Yeah.
going out and a lot of other things. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where obviously hindsight is 2020. So then we
Mm-hmm.
definitely text each other and we're like, yeah, let's sit down after the summer and like put
Yeah.
together something actually in writing for the next year. So because exactly that, money.
Right, exactly. And even with family, with anybody, I mean, just it's smart just to have those little contracts, just like, hey, this is how it's going to go. I mean, so this is going to sound really horrible, but my mom lives with me. She pays rent because we're like, everybody's just going to contribute. So then there's no hard feelings if you didn't do the dishes or whatever. Everybody's contributing, and it's not an even share, but it's just a little bit, just to help with groceries, help with all that stuff. So if my Doritos go missing, I'm not mad because she's paying for them too. So it's those little goofy things. So let's put this into the disc golf realm. I know that we have ran into some of those issues in the past with disc golf where people have signed long-term contracts with manufacturers, and all of a sudden, just like a fart in the wind, they were gone. So I can't believe that with as much money floats around within disc golf, that handshake deals are still to this day a thing.
Do you know any specifically that are still floating out there? Like any names? Like, I mean, I know that the big one was Paige, that Paige just came
Mm-hmm.
out. Like, but I feel like
Right.
after the Macbeth signing real money, like real money, that I feel like most of these are probably in contract, like in writing.
Yeah, I think a lot of them now are probably still in writing, but I'm thinking more of the lower level contracts.
Okay.
I'm thinking more of the second tier pros that's still happening, and I know even still with like we brought up Lone Star a little bit.
Yeah.
I know with Lone Star that Lone Star is like, this is a family, this is how it was. I remember when we talked to Josh
Yeah.
Hofstra about it, and they very quickly went to just 1 year and 1 year only. We're not signing anything longer than that. I don't know if they've changed their stance on that at all.
I don't think so. I think the only one that's locked up for multiple is Nico, but that's mostly because Nico has the sacred disc
Oh, the
deal and like
lines, yeah,
that sort of thing. So I think he's like the
yeah,
only one. So I
yeah.
think you're probably referring to like a Connor O'Reilly, a Tristan Tanner, like a that
Mm-hmm,
level
mm-hmm.
of player
Yeah,
that's probably on that handshake type deal.
yeah. And maybe they have this vague contract where it says they can really do anything. But the one that really and that still baffled me that was still going on, and most recently was the Gannonburg contract,
Yeah.
where there were all these promises that were never in writing, and there were some that were in writing, and that's where that whole litigation thing came up with Gannon Burr. And I'm not harping on Prodigy. I've been very nice to Prodigy recently,
Well,
but
yeah, that
that's
Ganon
one of
disc
those
is
ones.
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm just kind of, I'm surprised that those things are still happening. And you're looking at new companies coming up, and they're still doing the best friend thing. They're still doing the handshake deals, and there's a lot of money still happening across the board. And it's scary to see, especially with some of the new events or new things that are happening that we'll get to in just a little bit, within the PDGA. So,
My
um,
my question is that just I would love to ask a lawyer because I'm sure that these exist all in disc golf. Is Are text messages legally binding? That's because
geez.
because that's how Gannon had like text messages and Facebook messages in that
Mm-hmm.
lawsuit that Gannon was using to like for his countersuit. But
Right.
I'm sure that there's other like team managers or members of like whatever manufacturer that's like, hey man, yeah, like come over here, we'll get you. Yeah, we could totally do that. We'll make sure that
Yeah.
you're
We'll do
taken
whatever you
care of.
need.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I want to know, like, that's just a rhetorical question, because obviously you're not a lawyer. You have a
Yeah.
lawyer for your business,
Yeah.
but yeah, our text
Only use
messages,
them when I need them.
yeah, no, for sure. But like that's a pretty it's a pretty interesting thought, because like I'm sure that there are
Mm-hmm.
team managers trying to woo people over, saying, yeah, we'll get you signature discs, absolutely, or yeah, well, we for sure will take care of you in any capacity. Yeah, you need a couple of
Right.
bags, we'll send you bags. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then nothing happens. Yeah.
right,
And I think all too often in business that happens. I mean, we have, and these are businesses that do this, and I understand, but we have people call probably once to twice a year saying that, like, hey, if you sign this contract, we'll get you X dollars for your business. And I'm like, show me an offer. Well, no, that's not how it works. You have to sign a contract with us first. No, no, no. That's not how it works. Show me an
yeah,
offer and then I'll sign a contract. Like, you got a buyer online, we'll do that. Like, that's fine. And if you can promise me that type of money, absolutely I'll step away from the business. But, it's just one of those. I will never do anything that will leave any sort of hardship without some sort of contract. And even if there is a contract, the hard thing is living up to those contracts. Sometimes contracts are written and then put in a filing cabinet and completely forgotten about. And unfortunately, when worse comes to worse, that contract is pulled out and everybody's like, oh crap, we had a contract. I forgot about that, And I think that's where disc golf is. Disc golf is a lot of, like, of the same people going through so many different places and so many different manufacturers that they just trust that the right thing's going to happen and they don't watch their contracts. So hopefully I think it's getting better. And I think especially after what's going on right now that we'll talk about in a bit, that's probably going to get even more ironclad. So with that being said, why do you suck, Ben?
yeah, I don't know. I I can't. I mean, I still can't putt. On the last episode, I mean, I'm still hitting cages, but that's just a matter of I just gotta like actually get in reps. Because for a long time, I thought everybody that said, "Oh yeah, you need to practice putting to be good at putting," I was like, "You're a liar." I can just go out there and do it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Disc golf wise, I've just been changing my bag up too much, of just like
Mm-hmm.
not really figuring out how a disc flies, and it's just like, obviously you'll ask me in a minute what I bought, and it's just like, oh, I bought things, let's see what they do, and then like I'm just putting them in the bag,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then I didn't give it a fair shot, but so like that,
Right.
but yeah,
Right. Yeah, you expect the discs to change your game when in reality you should change your game to fit the disc. If that makes any sense. You should
yeah,
be good enough and have enough to be able to do that yourself and pick up the disc and make the disc do what the disc is supposed to do, not the disc mask your. And it's funny, we had that conversation in the shop where, like, selling discs to new people, where people come in and they want a disc that's going to do something for them. And you're like, so how do you throw? How far do you throw? Oh, absolutely. A Captain's Raptor throwing 250 feet. That's a perfect disc for you. Like, no, that's not what we should say. But how do you say that without turning them away? Like, how do you point them in a direction of, like, you should be using a Vandal, not a Captain's Raptor, you know,
for
or
sure.
you should be on a Heat, not a Captain's Raptor. Yeah. So, no, I get it. So, and I will say that I suck for the absolute same reason, the fact that I'm kind of a disc whore.
Yeah.
Um, I have a Fudge, which is a
Mm.
judge of another name and a different parent. And then I have a Vanilla. And the Vanilla is fantastic. So the Vanilla is a beat in Grace. Um,
Mm.
so it has this beautiful stability to it, but still workable, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I haven't thrown it enough to give it the true work in and actually break it in. And I haven't used Clash's discs enough in the steady plastic to know how much they beat in and all that. But
It's a
I
slow beat
am,
in. I'll say that.
it is slow.
It's a slow beat in.
So
So,
that's good. So it's similar to Lucid then. Lucid takes a while to
yep.
break in. All right. So I'm excited about it. I mean, but that's my problem. Like, I told myself for the last, I think I've said this 3 times since we've been doing Why Do You Suck? And I just went ahead and did it again. So
There's
the
also
judge, Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say just quick. There's also that thing of like you see a pro doing something with the disc, and you're like, oh yeah, like I won't throw it as far, but I can get it to do that. And then you go out and
Exactly.
buy it, and then you like, oh, I can't get it to do that because of
Uh-huh.
all these varying factors. They've had that disc for
Uh-huh.
5 years, and it's just beat in, or it's perfectly brand new out of the bag or out of the box, and then they just
Mm-hmm.
can do whatever. Like, and you're just like, oh no, I can't. I can't do that
And
with that
their
disc.
release speed is 70 miles an hour, and yours is 40. Like,
100%. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
and they release the disc on plane. You have a bunch of oat. It's like all
Hmm.
those things that you you think you don't have, and then you're like, well, yeah, I do. Like I do that all the time. It's so
All
sad.
all amateur disc golfers or just people not on the pro tour just in general are all the definition of insanity. We do the same thing over and over again expecting a different
Mm-hmm.
result and we just don't
Yep,
ever learn from our mistakes.
exactly. So I guess that kind of went into our thrower hanger flipper. But yeah, how about a vanilla and a fudge? And like I said, the fudge is a judge. Um, very, very similar. There's a
You should just
maybe
cross
just a
out the F and
slight
just write
deeperness.
J.
And I so want to bring Bobby on and just be like, all right, seriously, you call it the fudge. It's the exact mold as a judge. Not the exact mold, but it is pretty darn close. It's as close to a judge as you can get. And then you call it the fudge? Like, really? So, yeah, I think he had influence in that one.
It fits in with the candy. That's their other putter that's coming
Uh-huh.
out soon. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what was the other one? The cinnamon that just came out recently? No, yeah,
yes,
the cinnamon.
cinnamon. They got a lot of stuff that's coming down. Just seeing online, they got the cinnamon, they got the cherry, the candy.
Mm-hmm.
Vanilla just came out. The sage is coming out soon as well.
Yeah.
That's a distance driver.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, you're getting a lot of love tonight because the only two things that I got coming are some softy butters that are replacing the from Bobby and Clash. They're taking
Mm-hmm.
care of me.
Mm-hmm.
They're replacing the bleeding softy butters. But then I
Yeah.
also bought a vanilla because you texted our
Oh,
group
that's
and
right.
said the vanilla is great, and I was like, yeah, I wanted one, but I couldn't find one. And then like I was searching the internet, I was like, wait, I found one at OTB.
OTV. Yep. Yeah, and we never had them in shop because we're not privy to the releases of Clash. We weren't privy to the releases of Clash, so but now we are. But yeah, it's a beautiful. I'm interested to see your thoughts on it once you get it because I think it's going to be in your wheelhouse. It is. I don't know if it stands true to the Neg 2. I
Okay,
think it's like that Neg 1.5
so
is probably where I would put it.
So what I'm hoping for out of it is I really love my honey for flip up shots and
Mm-hmm.
understable kind of long distance shots. I'm hoping for something that's in that like a speeds like a slot slower. So obviously the 11 speed, but with more stability, right? So like that's what
That's
I'm
exactly where it's going to fit.
awesome. That was what
That's
I was hoping
exactly
it
where
would
it's
be.
going to fit.
So
Yep, yep. And for those of you who don't know, I think it's an 11.5 neg 2 2 or
okay.
1 2. So I don't have it in front of me or else I would let you know. So yeah, so that's what I bought. So I actually had something to contribute to this. I usually don't. But been throwing a little bit more, been kind of taking back the game because I just got a little sullied on it for a little bit and I was like hurting and like there was just so much that was going on that I had all these excuses not to play and there were no excuses. And yeah, I just missed the game. So I was just like, you know what? I'm taking this back for myself. I'm going to go play. And I've been enjoying it, and I hated playing by myself and I'm really enjoying playing by myself again. And so I'm happy. Wow, it's raining hard. So I'm pretty happy that I'm getting out and I'm coming back together. Like my nose angles are getting better. All that stuff is coming better. So now if I could just stick with the disc, because all the discs are foreign in my bag now, like everything I throw is just doesn't feel right. The only thing that feels right is, like my Judge, my Emax. And
Mm.
outside of that, like even picking up the Hex or the Comet or even the Comet. I mean, I've had the Comet in my bag for a long time. I just don't feel comfortable with it. So now I've been like trying to like, oh, I got to solve my problem with other discs. So, all right, well, let's go over the preview. So we have PCS Sula. We'll go over that. We'll talk about Paige Pierce. We're going to talk about Yuli. and then the FPO saga. So we will see. And that FPO saga is one that I think will be a good conversation because I think Ben and I kind of stand on different sides of it. We don't
Yeah.
believe the same thing on it. And I think it's going to be a good conversation because you're going to hear from kind of both sides. I don't think either of us are staunch one way or the other, but it'll be fun. So, and then we'll have Ben's random question, and then we'll do some shop updates. So we do have a crud ton of discs coming in pretty soon. We do have Trilogy Challenge discs coming in. We have all kinds of fun stuff because we're running a Trilogy Challenge on August 20th. So we'll be getting all those up, and I got to post that. I just got the approval yesterday. So, or no, excuse me, Friday. So with that being said, let's get into PCS Sula. So I only watched highlights of it, and I know that Paul Macbeth and Kristen Tatar won, but outside of that, I didn't watch really much else. I know that there was some pretty solid play and beautiful course, but that's it.
Yeah, so I caught about the last 6 holes of FPO on Championship Saturday, and just because of the time difference, and the emails come in from DGN of when they're starting, and like I look back and it was like 2:30 in the morning. And I'm an early riser, as you know, Shane. So I was up. Basically, Kristen did not play super well on Championship Saturday, and Missy was right there. Kristen ended up bogeying 3 holes in a row at one point. On 17, Missy had a chance to tie Kristen going into 18, and she ended up taking an unfortunate cage hit. She had to go to a straddle putt, and that's not her style, just based on the obstacles in front of her. So she gave it about a good run. She was probably about edge of circle, maybe just a tad outside. And then she unfortunately went for on 18. She was throwing first on the upshot, and she ended up going out of bounds, so Kristen could win with a bogey. So Kristen just had to get there. But on the FPO side, really cool to see a Norwegian local, a 15-year-old. I don't remember her first name. I just know her last name is Nessa, and she ended up being taking 4th place, I believe. So watch out for that name down the line.
I love seeing the European tour strengthen because I think it's giving a lot more challenge and a lot more push to the traditionally dominant North American group. Americans for that matter.
Yeah.
So
and then on the MPO side, Paul just doing Paul things. He is not washed up. He
for the 3rd week in a row.
He's not washed up. James Proctor came out of the gate pretty strong on the MPO side, and Paul kept pace with him, and then James just kind of fluttered, and Paul just kind of put the pedal down and just said, "Yeah, it's go time." And then Calvin and Eagle kind of fell a bit, but Paul just didn't make really any mistakes. Like, he just took his medicine and got a par when he needed to. Worked hard and got birdies. That was really all it was. He just played, in my opinion, really smart disc golf.
And he had hot round by 6 strokes. The closest to him was Nicholas and Tia of -9 for the final round, and he had a -13 on the round. So, or -8, and then he had a -13. So he was 5 strokes better than anybody on the day. So, Paul Macbeth, everybody. But, he's been over there for a month. He's been putting in work over there. I mean, and I know he didn't start out well, but
no, I saw the stat from Statmando that was like after like his 38th place finish, he went like first, 6th, first, like nothing off the point. Like, so he was just figured it out, and that just makes him dangerous going into this European Open week here coming up.
Right. I apologize about the dogs. I have a visitor, and they have 2 little dogs that love yapping. So if you hear them in the background, I apologize. So with that, let's talk about Paige Pierce. So I heard something different than you did, or I read something different than you did. But she broke her leg, and she did it on the course. You think?
I saw the first part that said she like that her Instagram said she broke her leg, and then I saw a tweet of somebody that posted a screenshot of the bridge on the course and said that this is the bridge that Paige broke her leg at. They put turf over it now, and it was
Oh,
like on
jeez.
the course. So like I'm not entirely sure as to which is correct.
Okay.
However, all the same, Paige broke her leg and she is out for at a minimum 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like a kind of a yeah. I'm trying. Oh, there she is. Yeah. So I get a chance to go in the future again. Sometimes life gives you, yeah. Sometimes life gives you a slippery bridge to cross, and I'm happy to have such great friends who helped me through the scariest day of my life. So, unfortunate like that. That really, really sucks that she went through that. It sucks to not see her on tour over there because, like I've said time and time again, field with Paige Pierce in it is a better field. So it sucks to not see her there, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So hopefully she gets it back to the States in good health and is able to heal up, and we see her soon. So back out on tour. Well, soon enough, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, she says, in a few months, I'll be back stronger with metal plates and screws in her leg. Wow.
At least she's in good
Crazy.
at least she's in good spirits.
Exactly. So let's have a conversation about the bridge. So if it is on a course, is that something? So I know that's a fairly moist area. For those of you who don't like the word moist, there you go. Um, do you think something should have been done, or is this just a hey, I wore the wrong shoes? Oh, she's an idiot wearer, isn't she?
I think so.
Uh
I
oh.
don't remember.
Uh oh.
Um I it's so hard, right? Like it was a wood structure and it's a wood bridge, and like in disc
Mm-hmm.
golf we walk over these wood structures literally all the time.
Right.
Um I think this is just, I don't want to call it a fluke. I think that this is just a very unfortunate situation if she just kind of planted the wrong way,
Mm-hmm.
and she something she fell or she did something, right? Like
Right.
I think it's really hard to pinpoint to something, to whether it
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
to anything like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think I said like earlier, you probably have if it's on a course, you probably have 100+ people that walked across that bridge. She just happened to be the unfortunate one that broke her leg. There might have been others that fell, but man, that it just sucks. Like sometimes you just fall the wrong way and break your leg. I mean, it's like those people that sneeze and their back goes out for a week. Like it happens. Like it happens and it sucks, but wish her well and quick healing.
Yeah.
So anything else?
Yeah, no, I think, that's really all we can do. I think Paige
Well,
is going to be hopefully she just kind of takes care of the mental side of things, because that's the only thing at this point that she can do is just stay determined, stay focused, try not to
mhm.
let the setback get the best of her. That's really
Right.
what I think it comes down to.
Good, good. All right. Well, Yuli hits a milestone, and Yuli has officially, what was it, the 200th start in an elite or major
Yeah,
in a row.
I don't know if in a row. I think it's just like he has 200 starts, because like I'm sure at some point in his career there's
Yeah,
been
didn't he have like a broken
majors.
leg for a while or something?
Yeah, because I think that there's also
Yeah.
probably been a USDGC over his career that he maybe just didn't qualify for, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the new Iron Man in terms of that record.
Uh-huh.
So really just props to him for the longevity of his career. And I think he's
Right.
probably like what, maybe 34, 35. So he's still got maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe 34, 35, 36, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that was 36 for some reason because I thought Jerm was like 38 and he was 2 years younger. But yeah, he's in his
Regardless,
mid
yeah,
30s. How about that?
yeah, we'll go with that. So either way, he still has like at least a few years left before he can move into Masters. So think about that. And he's still a determined guy, and he's always said that the one thing he's missing is a major title. So he's going to be
Right.
he's hunting that down, and he played really well this weekend at PCS Sula. So I've props to him, just hanging around. And Paige makes the FPO field better. Yuli makes disc golf better, him being around, because he's just so knowledgeable and such a good guy.
Yep, I agree. Yuli is one. Ironically, I'm wearing the really worn out Yuli hat. So Yuli, if you see this, I could really use one of these. These are awesome. I have a really giant head, and they fit my head very well. But yeah, I think I love Yuli as a personality. I'm a huge, huge fan. I think him with anybody else makes that person better. And I'm a huge Brody fan. And I think him with Brody, as long as their audio issues aren't acting up.
That's just a running bit at this point.
It has to be. I love their interactions. And I love it when Yuli is able to speak coherently and clearly through a microphone that works. And I think he adds so much to that podcast, and I think he elevates that podcast a lot. So I am just through and through a huge fan. His commentary on Joe Mez, like, I can go on and on. I'm a fanboy. So with that all being said, I want to start this next conversation with saying that I'm going to make light of a lot of these things and bring a little, I guess, probably some backhanded, goofy comments, but ultimately, all this conversation is just a conversation. So with that being said, we're going to talk about the FPO saga. So the fact that the PDGA has taken their ball and gone home because their pockets are empty.
The Pro Tour.
Excuse me. The Disc Golf Pro Tour says, I'm taking my ball and going home because our pockets are empty. We can't fight any more legal battles in regards to the FPO division and the transgender rule that they are backing, which is set by the PDGA that they have adopted. So with that being said, they have decided to say, we're not going to have any more FPO events for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. They're going to try to find different places to play them. They're going to try to find alternate, but they're not going to have a FPO division. So MPO, they're still available. And have you heard anything whether they're going to open the MPO division and add spaces now that they've dropped the FPO?
I have not heard anything of that. I just think it's also important that we mention that they laid out 5 events. So only 5 events for the FPO. So I'd have to look at the schedule and see what's left. But there were 5. There were 5 that were in question of saying, this is the plan. This is where we're at. This is kind of what's happening. And I think the big one
be responsible and lay those out.
Yeah.
Okay. You go ahead and talk while I look those up.
Yeah, I know that the big one that is going to be just an absolute bummer is that the one that was mentioned, and it is important that they figure that out pretty quick, is Maple Hill at MVP Open. And because that's a playoff event, and that was a very large purse for that event. This is also in contradiction to what Steve Dodge had said on the Nick and Matt show, I believe, or somewhere else. Steve Dodge is obviously the TD for that event. He said that the FPO field was not going anywhere. Here we are. We've reached that.
And he can make that decision. It just would not be a DGPT sanctioned event.
Correct.
If he decides to continue to run with the...
I think it effectively would be 2 separate tournaments then, and he would have to get so many waivers and so many things filled out with the PDGA that he would have to... That the FPO field would be an A tier, which then Natalie Ryan would still be able to play.
Right.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of moving parts to this. I don't know.
And there's nothing but hurt feelings in this in any direction you go. Sadly.
Yeah.
So Mid-America Open, nothing's happening. So on 28th and 30th, 28th through the 30th July, still a go. Nothing is changing. So Ledgestone will be, so D-Glow will be no FPO. Idlewild, no changes currently planned. Great Lakes Open, so D-Glow, excuse me. So Ledgestone and then D-Glow. American Flying Disc Open, which is a silver series, the Discmania Open, also no FPO division,
That one's in Canada.
MVP, yep, and then MVP, the DGP has canceled the FPO, and then the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, as of right now, no changes. So the biggest thing that is pretty clear is that they are eliminating the events that happen in states that lawsuits are possible for this matter as far as transgender athletes competing in a protected division. So essentially primarily red states, like you said, Ben. So more conservative states is kind of where it's happening. The least the blue states. So the least conservative or more conservative states are trying to move some of these events into neighboring states that will allow them where the litigation can't happen. So for instance, Ledgestone happens in Illinois, and that is a predominantly blue state, I would say, and would allow a lawsuit to happen. So on and on. So we go on. Michigan, blue state. Well, that's kind of a purple state, but has a has a leaning towards
recency.
Right now, right?
Recency is their governor she is a Democrat. So
right.
But that's a very, just like Wisconsin, that's a very purple state.
Yes, exactly. So all in all, what they're doing is they're making decisions based on their pocket, and I think there are cascading effects and auxiliary, like collateral damage, that's happening, that whether they care or don't care, it's happening, but it's not the best thing that can happen, because I think it's only going to further this divide that is already there. And, in my humble opinion, I think this was 100% my opinion. I think it's a tragedy that an entire division is being cut out of the Disc Golf Pro Tour due to lawsuits. But I know that you'll have probably a very similar opinion, but it's probably coming from a different direction. It sucks. Like, why are we and I'll talk kind of a little bit of history, just when we're starting to see the FPO division get the sponsorship, get the money, get the time, the airtime, get the talking points, like everything is getting up to par, like the pay is getting up there. I mean, everything is getting to a point where, like the pace is the players' payouts on MPO compared to FPO based on the amount of money that is brought in. FPO is being paid out way more than MPO percentage wise of the money that's being brought in. So we're looking at things that are happening that are bringing the FPO up. And now in the biggest level the highest level of our sport, it's gone. That sucks. Nothing else to be said about it. It sucks. And it's all due to lawsuits. And whether valid or not valid, it still affects the entirety of FPO. It sucks. So I don't know. It's about all I have to say about it. I mean, I don't know if there's really anything else productive that I can add other than that sucks. So with that being said, Ben.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like, I would just be a D-bag if I was like, yeah, burn the FPO division. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is not at all where I'm coming, like what I think. I agree that I think it sucks. I think that I'm going to say this, and I think that you would agree, regardless of how you feel, anybody coming at Natalie and saying that you are the reason that this is happening and attacking her personally makes you a clown.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, regardless of how you feel, you just don't get to attack a person for that. Yes, obviously there's a ripple effect of these things that are happening, of course. But I think that what I truly believe, and this is just my opinion, is that all of the lawsuits were going to happen regardless. because that's just the way that this works. People don't like that things are happening, and they find lawsuits, things happen. People sue everybody in
Mm-hmm.
America all the time, and foreigners find it
Mm-hmm.
bizarre. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just the truth. I think, though, that regardless of how you feel, I think that people need to understand and respect the fact that this was also going to happen because of the way that the PDGA's policy was written. In that essentially they are creating two separate policies and putting it all under one. Like the policy was just written so poorly that it opened the door for these lawsuits to happen. So, because of the split in that of Elite Series and Majors and A tiers, and it's just like this policy was not. If they had one, so like the way my brain is kind of working right now is that if the PDGA
Mm-hmm.
came out and they said this is our policy and it's for all of disc golf, A tiers, B tiers, C tiers, X tiers, Majors, Elite Series, whatever. This is our policy.
This is anything under the PDGA umbrella.
This is anything under the PGA umbrella. Okay. Natalie
Mm-hmm.
then has a lawsuit, or whomever has a lawsuit that is just solely with the PDGA, and then they can argue and they can litigate on is this
Mm-hmm.
discrimination or not.
Mm-hmm.
The way that this policy was written, because Natalie was effectively the only touring trans athlete on the tour, this has then opened the door for her to come into all these states and say, hey, here's all this evidence, and you are pinpointing the events that I play in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, everybody plays their select handful of A tiers that mean something to them, or they fill a weekend, right? But when you look at a touring pros majority, that's that. So
Yep.
so
Yep.
I understand why people I get it. I feel like this sucks for the FPO field. I truly do. But I think that the
Mm-hmm.
only people that anybody has to blame for this, the Pro Tour needs to blame the PDGA for this. And I think the players need to really take a step back and look at this and say, where did this originate from? Because I understand you're mad. You're mad at that all this litigation is happening. I understand that you're mad that the Pro Tour got to this point because they ran out of money.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a step back as humans and let's figure out the why. And the why, in my personal opinion, is because the policy, the way that it's written, it opened the door for litigation. Litigation was going to happen regardless if it happening now, and it would have happened if they had this blanket. But at least that was just going to be just the Natalie Ryan versus the PDGA, and it would be one court case, and everything would just kind of happen.
Right. Well, in the uniqueness of disc golf, so I agree with you on the PDGA, and I think it's been said over and over again that I think the rule that they made was they're trying to appease both parties, and they failed miserably on it. And we've seen that happen in multiple different decisions, but in the PDGA in general, that was what happened. We're trying to play both sides and appease both sides, and we really failed miserably doing it. So the uniqueness of the PDGA and the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the events that are held is that they are under the PDGA's umbrella, but ultimately ran by individuals. So I am sure they're getting pressure, not only from the Disc Golf Pro Tour, of course, is getting pressure, probably not only from, Natalie Ryan's side suing, putting all these lawsuits, but also probably from the tournament directors saying I don't want any part of this. Figure it out before you come to me. Because especially Nate Heinold I think is the next big one that's coming, Ledgestone.
Next two, because he's got D-Glow too.
Yeah, and D-Glow. So, for those two, it's Nate Heinold's I'm out, man. Because I don't want to be part of this lawsuit. I'm already part of it as the PDGA. I don't want this personally as the TD. And I'm sure that, in my humble opinion, I'm sure that Steve Dodge is probably thinking the same thing, and isn't God, what's his name? Why can't I think of the director of the DGPT?
Jeff Spring and Phil Delone.
Jeff Spring. Yeah, so I'm sure they're thinking the same thing, because Jeff Spring has an event coming up as well.
Yeah, Worlds.
And Worlds. So I'm sure there's pressures from so many different directions that the Disc Golf Pro Tour just said, And if it's written in stone, if it's not written in stone, it probably will be pretty soon. I'm assuming that Worlds is going to be FPO list as well,
I
and that's an assumption.
yeah. I don't know. Vermont is a fairly blue state, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going to happen with that. My stance on this is that it isn't as it currently stands, and we'll just compare disc golf for a hot second to the big brother of golf. Okay, so like on golf, you
Mm-hmm.
have the PGA Tour, which is all independent, and they don't own
Mm-hmm.
any of the majors. Similar in a sense to disc golf,
Mm-hmm.
but in disc golf right now, the PDGA relies so much right now currently on the Pro Tour's infrastructure and on Pro Tour TDs to run the
Mm-hmm.
majors, and there's money being exchanged. How that works and what that looks like, we don't know, but there is money being exchanged behind the scenes between the Pro Tour and the PDGA. So it is obviously in the best interest of the Pro Tour to always stay and maintain the good graces of the PDGA.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, yes, the Pro Tour could exist on its own. I truly think it could without the
Oh,
PDGA.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
However, because of what I just mentioned, they just can't.
Well, no, I mean, it's all a matter of money. I mean, that's the reason they made the decision. That's the reason they're staying with the I mean, with the PDGA. I mean, I think there's a lot of dollar signs behind the scenes that are pointing to the fact that they're trying to mitigate the risk that they have built within the decision that they're backing that the PDGA created. That was a mouthful, but I think I got it
Yeah.
right.
No,
you know,
I understand what you're saying.
so yeah, it's
I think that this is going to be now. Granted, I have no connections to anybody on the Pro Tour. Don't know
mm-hmm,
anybody. However, and people can, if they want to follow me on Twitter, I had this exchange with Kevin from the shop, and just some other
mm-hmm,
people kind of weighing in, including Neptune Discs. Neptune Discs, who obviously sponsors Natalie, got a hold of my tweet and they saw the thread between Kevin and I, and they basically had just said, "Hey, disc golf people, this is how a conversation should be had on Twitter. Open to new ideas, new discussions. Nobody attacked anybody. We appreciate that. So thank you,
mm-hmm.
Neptune Discs, for seeing us and propping us up for that. That was always our intention. However, my tweet thread with Kevin said that this is a historic moment in the sense that I think that this needs to be the start of the Professional Disc Golfers Association, effectively the first players union.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how the players feel or however they would vote on the Natalie thing, we're going to put that aside, because if they vote and they have a union and they can obviously vote on different measures, but I think that this would start to set standards and practices for how the tour essentially operates. Because if they had a players union, they'd be working in tandem with trying to figure out what does this look like for fair competition in states, so that because right now the Pro Tour just said, sucks for all you FPO players, you guys just lost
Mm-hmm.
5 events and 5 potential money making opportunities. A
Mm-hmm.
union in all other sports and in all other facets of life and labor would have pushed back and had the ability to say, okay, let's put some rules in place here. Let's think about this. Now, yes, obviously, I
Mm-hmm.
believe that the Pro Tour is acting in good faith, trying to make up these events somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
However, hotel rooms, Airbnbs, plane travel, all these other
Mm-hmm.
things that now, like, the Pro Tour is not going to compensate the players for airfare or anything
Mm-hmm.
else, trying to figure that out. Like, they
If
just said you're on your own.
Yep. If they don't have enough money for the retainers for the lawyers, they're not going to have enough money for doing that stuff.
No.
And maybe they're picking their battles. Maybe there is money there to do it, but maybe they're like, let's just figure out the one in Oregon and California, and I think there's one other state. There's active
Minnesota.
lawsuits going, Minnesota. So let's figure out these three first, and then go from there. And you know, And I agree that this would be the most opportune time to create a players union. You know, is there truly a necessity for players union? Because I think this particular item, if we're just talking about this, I know you said set this Natalie Ryan thing aside, but you know, ultimately this is the players union could have helped with this situation,
Well, they needed
but
to have a lawyer, not a player rep, not like a beacon, but like a legit, like a disc golf law type lawyer, because somebody that
mm-hmm,
handles arbitration is a true juris doctor.
mm-hmm.
Like, so that's just what I,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and I think that would probably have been, and when the rule was being created, it could have been consulted. You know,
yeah,
ultimately, this situation would have probably happened no matter what.
yes.
Um, but it could have been stopped. So we let's reverse time. What, it was been a year since they implemented the rule,
Well, it came,
maybe a little over, or 2 years, right?
the no
No, last year.
it went in like they worked behind the scenes in November, because we were on this
Mm-hmm.
podcast or you guys were talking about it before I had joined, but like in
Yep.
November, Natalie went to like the PDGA summit. The PDGA summit happened in November. December the rule came out and they were like January 1 it's happening. Deal with
Yep.
it. So,
Yep. Yep. That so yeah. So it's been in effect this season.
yep.
Reverse clock. It could have been handled well before that, and it maybe would have stopped this from happening. But you know, it's hard because there is no league that the players union is fighting. Every event is private event. The disc golf pro tour is all held by individual events. I mean, they just kind of oversee standards and they have a rules, you know. So until there's some more concrete, and I think this is like what you
So,
said, I think there's more concrete stuff that can happen if these things start to happen. And I think protecting the players, whether it was for Natalie Ryan or against Natalie Ryan, I think all of that stuff would have been hashed out by now, and we wouldn't be in this situation. And then it would be the players union fighting this battle, not the PGA or the disc golf pro tour.
yeah.
And we wouldn't be losing events
No.
potentially.
No, absolutely not. And other things that I just think about when I was thinking and crafting this whole thing about, standards and practices with the union.
Mm-hmm.
In other unions in just sports, because we'll pinpoint sports, they set standards as far as like teams and how they operate. Obviously a disc
Mm-hmm.
golf team is different than, a professional sports team in one of the other majors, the NBA, the MLB, whatever. But they would
Mm-hmm.
be able to implement some standards as far as like a minimum, like a baseline minimum for certain things, as far as just like an industry standard as far as like travel compensation or like a per diem for meals on the road, or like
Mm-hmm.
set some of these industry standards as far as like baselines for like tour series disc runs, or just like some of these more creating standards as far as like making sure that we are taking care of the players on the road, fighting like a
Right.
union, fighting for that health. Like these, I think a good union standpoint from this would be like, hey, we are really employees of this manufacturer, so we should be able to be entitled to purchase health care through your
Mm-hmm.
company, right? So some of these
Mm-hmm.
other like things that are just taking care of the players would be really beneficial from a union standpoint to have.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and I guess I can see some of the benefits to what it would be, but mark my words. Don't mark my words, but I would assume, and in my mind, the way my mind's eye works, as grassroots as disc golf is, I think something of that magnitude would probably destroy what disc golf is. Um, because I don't think it's not the union that would destroy it. It's the fact that the union would have nothing to go after, and people would just abandon the idea of trying to sponsor players and things like that. Because why? What's the benefit for me if I have to shell out all this stuff when, in reality, I'm assuming that most disc golf manufacturers outside of the big three, big four, outside of the no one else. So all these tiny little brands that have these teams, they're gone. Those teams are gone. They'll push their brands through marketing and things like that. Maybe not a bad thing, but in the same regard, like as disc golf as we know it would deteriorate, I think.
I I just am in the
But would it be a
camp.
bad thing?
I'm just in the camp that this is no longer a niche sport. Like this is no longer just like I'm in the camp of that we have not hit the mainstream, but that we have moved into a different era. That this old
Oh,
era, like that is the camp that I live in, and that this is a legit professional sport, and that this is like with LL Bean coming on and all these other things that we are no longer like the old like the days of old are gone. Like in that sense that the we have hit a new era and that this things are changing and things are happening. So
but
I'm not advocating for like the union like flipping everything on its head. I'm just saying like
right.
creating those levels of standards of like how do we as a player group
Yeah,
ensure that all of us are being taken care of and that bad things don't happen to us or that we are not,
right.
I don't want to say objectified, right? But like you're not being taken advantage of in some areas of being a professional disc golfer.
Right. Yeah. And I think there's merit to that. Like I said, I don't think so, but we also I do think so, but we also have to keep in mind that LL Bean is not the biggest thing that's ever happened to disc golf. Budweiser used to sponsor the world championships. Disc golf has gone through ebbs and flows and sponsorships. I mean, if that's the pinnacle of what makes disc golf mainstream is the sponsorship dollars, they've been there. They've been taken out and now they're back. But I think our sport is so young, and when I say our sport is so young, the majority of PDGA registered PDGA players, as in three quarters, 150,000 members, happened within the last 4 years, and we only have 250,000 members. So you think about it in that regard, in the last 4 to 5 years, 150,000. So we more than doubled our our registered players just in 5 years. So you hear those things, but like disc golf has been there before, and we kind of ebbed, and now we're kind of growing back. Now, no arguing that disc golf is bigger than it's ever been. I don't know if I would agree it's mainstream yet, though.
I don't think it's
I know there's bigger dollars than have ever been there, and I think those dollars need to be protected, especially for the players. But man, I don't know if I would call it a cornhole's bigger than disc golf. Like,
I don't know. I just think my personal view on it is that I think like the tour is becoming the tour and the professional game are becoming its whole entity and its whole animal.
mm-hmm.
So like I think like that portion of it is not like super mainstream, but I don't think that like I think just like the thought behind it and the things are just different and that it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to call it standardized, but it is like, like you don't.
It's becoming better for sure.
So like that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying as far as just
Mm-hmm.
like that we need to create like these or just like separate like these two camps that they're very different in the sense of just
Right.
that like we're talking about like a union that would effectively just be anybody with a tour card. So like we're talking,
What, those 150 players or
yeah,
whatever?
that we need
Yeah.
that we just do need to treat them differently because that is it just truly is like they are different
Mm-hmm.
in that sense. So
I would agree. Yeah, they're not the grocery bag.
Yeah.
They're, I mean, absolutely. They are true professional athletes. I 100% agree with that. And don't get me wrong. Let me finish by saying I love disc golf, and disc golf has grown tremendously from when I started playing, and in 2000, 2001, 99, whenever it was that I first threw my first disc, compared to now, the difference in disc golf is astonishing. And it's great. These are growing pains. These are fantastic problems to have. Aside from the lawsuits, these are fantastic problems to have. Outside of, that FPO saga we're talking about, these are great problems to have, growth problems. It is hard to see a sport you love that has never really had any drama to have this much drama over essentially one person, you know, and it's it stinks to see it because we're the inclusive sport, and yet the issues we're having are about not being inclusive. No matter how you fall on that line, it just sucks to see it. You know, it just sucks to see it. I want to go back to the days of Paul Macbeth saying, "This is my job." You know, like it's just the easy, fun, airy, like go grab some discs and throw some discs. But it is, it's like real now. And I think that's what you're getting at. Like it's real.
Yeah.
You know, it
That
sucks.
yeah, I think you
But
hit
it's
it on the
awesome.
head. I think
Yeah.
you kind of just summed it up. Is that for like this isn't like I think like the thing to encompass this is that it is real. It is real, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
tell somebody you are a professional disc golfer, it's not the oh how are you making any money? It's more of like oh that's cool. Like you know
Mm-hmm.
when you tell like when like these pros tell people like oh that's cool. Like where are you playing? What are you doing next? Like more people have a genuine understanding of what disc golf is, like as a general
Mm-hmm.
public now, in that it is real and it's not the oh like so what do you actually do for work, right? Like it's
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
like
So what do you
those
do
days
for
are
work?
yeah like those days are
Yeah.
gone. So like that's where I think like this legitimacy is coming in, and
Oh yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
not
Well, I mean, even when
maybe
I
not mainstream, but legitimacy is probably a better word.
Oh, for sure. And even when I explain stuff, you know, being around the people that I'm around, I talk to a lot of new people, and they're always asking me about what I do and things. And it's one of those like when people ask, oh, so what's the stuff you do outside of work for fun? And you know, the first thing is disc golf, because that's always what I do. It's like disc golf, mountain biking, kids. You know, the kids usually come first, but you know what I'm saying. But when I bring up disc golf, they're like, oh yeah. I said, you know, there's a course before. It was like, what's disc golf? Well, it's a frisbee golf. Oh, frisbee golf. Yeah. Or they're like, oh, it's like golf with the disc or with the frisbee. And they're like, oh, okay, I think I've heard of that before. Or they'll be like, oh, I heard that on Seinfeld. You know, like those are the comments we got.
Yeah.
But now it's just like, oh yeah, I know someone, or so yeah, I get it. You know, I've seen that happen. I've seen that transition, especially with the amount of people that I talk to on a daily basis. It's neat to see that. So
You know what wouldn't happen with a players union?
what's that?
Handshake deals.
There you go. Bringing it all the way around. I like that. No, there wouldn't. But it would make deals so much more. Actually, I think it'd be fun. You know, and as a disc golf media, and I'll throw up my quotes, my media, it would give us so much more to make fun of and talk about. Like some of these deals that would happen. It would be fantastic. It'd be great.
It'd be great to see, especially because you know how like bands have like riders and stuff for when they go at venues. I want to know like who's putting something weird, who's getting something weird in their contract. Like
exactly.
Like I've heard of like bands
who has to
stuff.
have all the blue M&Ms at the putting green.
So like it's funny is that I've heard the reason why people put those weird requests in is to make sure that the people who are reading the rider, or it's to make sure that people are actually reading the rider. So they're put to because some of the things are just like in the rider are like we get paid on this day. This is who people get paid. This is who like this is what time we need to be able to load in. This is what time like this is the expectations of like parking, like all these like actual things, and then like the food is just a separate thing. But they stick it in at the end just to make sure that like all of like their technical crew, all these things are being paid and people are getting hit. So like that's so like I've heard that's why you see these ridiculous requests is just to make sure that the venue or whomever is actually reading the full contract.
Right. And I'm sure there's a bit of an ego thing that they can like, I want this, so you're going to do it for me. Oh, all right. Ben, you have a random question for me?
Let's just pivot off of that. What would be on your rider? What would be on
my
your
rider? I would request that for every Pro Tour stop, they have on the putting green for my warm-ups lemon heads. But let me clarify, not the little lemon heads, the big ones that you can eat the outside off of.
Like the
They're
jawbreaker
size.
size. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they got to have those.
I know
and a Celsius.
you are a big Celsius guy, and you pivot through
Oh,
the flavors too.
we do. I got to test them out. I allow
Yeah.
myself one a day at most. So, although I drank 3 the other day.
Were you just wired?
Oh my God. Like I felt like my heart was going to explode. Like my chest was like, it had like a tightness to it. It was not smart.
Carbs
I
and
lied. I ate 2. I drank 2 and a Starbucks.
oh gosh. So I have in my life I've worked in very high caffeinated industries. Currently working for the next 2 weeks. Currently working in the soft drink industry, and then when I was in high school and college, I worked at Starbucks. So I understand like the caffeine jitters, and I'll say real water, not a Celsius, and carbs are the two most effective ways to
Take it away.
to help with that.
Well, so normally I'll go and like that day, it was actually yesterday. I usually go and I'll like ride my bike and like I'll do 10, 12 miles. And usually by the end of it, I'm like, okay, it kind of came off the high, you know? I got back and like almost the entire ride, it was like 146 beats, like was my average.
To the moon.
It was nuts. I was just like, oh my goodness. And I have a higher heart rate because I'm older and fatter. So I have a higher heart rate, but not that high. I got back and I'm like, holy moly. Like, so yeah, that was a fun one. So what about you? What's in your rider?
Oh, a white Gatorade.
Okay.
I don't know. I like cherry. I think artificial cherry is just like my favorite artificial flavor.
Really? Okay.
Uh,
That's a polarizing flavor artificially.
yes,
There's people that love it and
is.
people that hate it.
I
No.
am a fan. Gum, like specifically like mint gum. I'm open to that of any kind. And then this is a hot take, but probably the butter popcorn jelly bellies.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. So it's butter popcorn and what's the other flavor for the Burt's Bees or whatever those are?
Bean boozled.
Bean Boozled. Yeah. What's the other flavor? It's burnt
like
popcorn.
It's like toe jam or vomit or something
Earwax.
like earwax. Okay.
Earwax. I don't notice a difference between them. When I eat them, they're both just like they're so bad. My kids love the butter popcorn, and
I specifically like all Jelly Belly. I genuinely do. So jelly beans are probably just would be in my rider, but specifically I do like that.
Butter popcorn. I'll have to remember that next time we're. Well,
for the next flex, have it available for me. For the next flex,
yeah, exactly. There you go. That'll be your rider, part of the contract we work on.
And I don't have to walk.
Yeah. Well, and and there won't be a Vegas for me this year because we're having a baby. Did you know that, by the way? Did I tell you?
No.
Well, there you go. We're having a baby. So break it to everybody right now.
Congratulations, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, 9 years out. Well, almost it'll be 10 years when it's born out from our last one. So I won't lie. It was the oops, but we're fine with it. We weren't doing anything to protect it. So we figured if it happened, it happened, and it happened.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It was one of
those
life
on
resets.
Your rider.
Baby on my rider. It's going to be diapers and wipes on my rider. So, all right. Well, with that being said, shop updates. There will be onesies for babies going. Just kidding.
In 9 months, though.
Yeah, in 9 months there will be a door disc golf onesie. No, so we have a very, very big DD order. So we have not only the custom stamp discs, we have probably another about, I don't know, I would say 200 plus discs. So Trilogy has just absolutely been zipping out of the shop. And Kristen Tatar has her name on like 4 discs. So we're just bringing them in as quick as we can sell them. And so we have a ton of discs coming in. And I will post on door_disc_ golf on Instagram. I will post the stamp that we're bringing in. I'm going to wait probably about another week or so because it's about 5 weeks out. So we're got about another 3 weeks left. So I'm going to wait about another week and then I'll post it on there. So keep your eye out on door_disc_golf, and that will be the new stamp. We have about 200 or so discs coming in, various flavors and colors and rim widths and all that stuff. And then there will be judges, just so you know. So if you're putting with the wrong type of putter, we will have some for you. But I'll post that up, and then hexes and glitches will be coming. Like I said, we ordered a ton of them, and then we have some for the ultimate players. We have some ultimate frisbees coming in, and I am still waiting on updates from Grip 6 about the pickleball stuff. So we might be adding some pickleball to our inventory. So for those disc golf pickleball players, you might have something to order from. And I think outside of that, that's it. Got anything inspirational to leave on, Ben?
Tip your bartenders.
There you go. And since JP's not here, deuces in the toilet. Peace out. Keep us up, bar.